Welcome to the Better Than One Marriage Podcast. Unprepared conversations preparing you for marriage. Today we are talking about what to do when you disagree. There's a lot of things you can do, but you don't want to take that dreaded step into fussing and cussing, hollering, arguing, such and such. Welcome back to Better Than One Marriage Podcast. Two are better than one because we get a good reward for our labor. One was to fall, the other will be there to pick that person back up. I'm Ronald Corsi Jr.
And I'm Chelsea Corsi, and we're
still married after all this time and tumult and change and
Is
what?
Tumult a word?
I don't know if it is, but they know what I think it is a word, tumult.
Well, I know tumultuous.
Yeah, so tumultuous, calamitous, calamity, tumultuous, tumult, right? Issues, problems, they always arise. But luckily for us, you're going to look up my word, tumult. I know it's in there. I went to school for a little while. Is it a word?
I just never heard anyone other than you use it.
Well, I'm out here, Chelsea. I'm a scholar to some people, To other people's, I'm a fool. But I'm out here nonetheless. Just have a vast vocabulary. Just don't know anything else, though.
Sounds good.
Horrible is what it is. Yes. How are you today? This is the day before Mother's Day when we're actually recording this, so happy Mother's Day to you.
Thank you.
Mother of my children and wife of me.
Yes.
Yes. Wonderful mother to our children, raising them up, teaching them. Really, moms are the real person of the raising of children. They're the real caveat, like the real catalyst. Because if you leave it to dad, everything is going to they'll be all right. Yeah, they'll be all right. You'll be okay. I ain't got no clean drawers. You'll be all right.
Okay.
I ain't eat today. You can eat tomorrow. Don't worry about that. You'll be all right. Not mom. Mom is like, hey, he needs a snack and, he needs a sandwich or something. I don't know. He needs some vegetables and some fruit. I'm just like, I ain't had no vegetables and fruit in 3 months.
Have mercy.
What do I give him some for? Yes. But happy Mother's Day to you.
Thank you.
Yes. Is there anything that you feel like what do you feel like you've accomplished as a mother? Like, what do you think is
I think, just off the cuff, I have accomplished being more patient than I think I am.
Okay.
I always feel like I'm not patient with the kids. Mainly our daughter.
Okay. Like, if you aren't, then what am I? My Lord.
Well.
Horrible.
Anyway.
All right.
I think I can be kind of snappy, but I've also realized I'm actually more patient than I think. I think I have really accomplished understanding that kids are individuals that do things in their own time. There's things that, it's like you try to teach them and it's like they're just not going to get it right away, but they will. And that's kind of been a trend in something that I've had to realize over and over again. You know what? Because it's like you stress yourself out trying to make things happen right away. And with kids, you just can't,
no.
You can't force them to be somewhere that they're not.
Certainly.
They're their age and at their stage of development, and they are themselves. Mm-hmm. And when the time is right, they get it. When they're ready, they do it. But it won't be before then.
Yeah.
And it's just more stressful to try to force it than it is to, or have false expectations of what they should be able to do or where they should be. Right. It's more stressful to do that than to just let it be.
I guess it's like that for everybody, really. But nobody, you're grown. So
right.
Nobody can. The people know they can't. They can't force you to do anything. But kids, you feel like you have to, like, because
Right.
you want them to be at a certain place, and you know, people, all people be needing that.
Yeah.
Try to tell them, basic instruction of how to do simple things,
Mm-hmm.
and if they don't know, it's like, hey, you really need to know this, but ain't like I can beat you. I can
Right.
just suggest to you, and hope that you say, all right,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And it's interesting that we try to take that approach with children of forcing them into knowing. It really has a lot to do with expectations.
mm-hmm.
You have to expect them to be a child,
Yeah,
and I think a lot of times we forget, like, this is a child, like you have to expect them to be emotionally immature.
yeah,
You have to expect them to not remember, like not have the best memory, not have the greatest finding anything skills.
certainly can't find that.
There's lessons they're going to have to be taught multiple times. And, I've said before that it's very parallel to our relationship with the Lord. He's our Heavenly Father and we're His children.
Mm-hmm.
And He tells us things. Looking at the Bible, how many times does He tell us the same thing on many different subjects?
Mm-hmm.
How many times did He have to tell His people throughout the generations the same thing over and over again? And it's like He does that with us, but He's patient. He's like, all right, let me tell you again. All right, let me show you again. And He doesn't blow up at us and be like, why didn't you get this yet?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's a good point. I think that it's hard to really have a grasp of that concept without becoming older.
It is.
Yeah, I think I've been experiencing that more and more, and I've literally been chalking stuff up to being like, yeah, you're just young, and you'll get it eventually. And that's with like people, which literally is making me think of, because I work with a set of 20-year-olds, and it's like they're 20, and that's when I was 20, and I'm like, the more that time goes along anyway, generally people are getting less mature, just because life is different than what it was before. A 20-year-old man, in the 40s was a man.
A father of five.
I was going to say 5, but he certainly had some kids.
You started 16, you got 5.
And that's funny. And a wife and a house, and he's
And 5 wives.
10 more years, and he's about to retire from his first job. And it's just not like that. A 20-year-old now is like a 15-year-old when we were kids, right? And a 20-year-old back then was like a 40-year-old to us.
It's true.
It's very odd how that works.
It is.
So a 20-year-old, I have to really see them as teenagers, and I try to tell them things that are, pretty just like, oh, this is a standard thing, and it's like, wait, but no, it's just like, what, it's fine, no problem. Because here's the thing, is this is one of the deepest things somebody ever told me. It was like, when you're young, you don't really have experiences. Like, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
Like, everything you know is something that somebody said.
Yeah.
And you just believe that. So it's like, all right, this is what it is. But you don't actually know it. Like, it's a complete difference between having actually lived and know things based off of actual information and experience, which is why old people or older seasoned people just laugh at young people, just like, y'all funny.
Right.
You'll figure it out. Keep on living, as they figure. Yeah, just keep on living. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But it leads me to our actual topic of disagreeing. And I'm starting to think, you remember, what was our first disagreement? Actual disagreement, not like butter pecan ice cream is better than chocolate or something. It is, but not that.
Do you know what it was?
In my mind, yeah.
I don't.
You will once I say it. Once I say it, you will.
Well, it depends on what you're calling a disagreement.
Well, our first altercation. Altercation is a bad word.
Oh, well, like before we were together?
Correct.
Oh.
I would say, yeah, that would be like our first, even
because we had started kissing.
Yes.
And then I said I didn't want to kiss anymore because I was trying to move slowly into relationship and whatnot. Like, we weren't even officially a couple.
Yeah, we were.
And it was not we were kissing. It was just like kiss goodbye.
That's
No,
what
we were
was.
not. It was a kiss goodbye. This guy. Not at all.
Oh.
Okay. First of all, sound effects for kissing is so absurd to me.
Passionate kiss. Wow. That was so passionate.
Ew. You can't be too hype about making out. That's not good. No, but
You holy and saved. That's all you. Oh, first kiss I've ever
well,
had.
now that's different. Anyway,
Sadly.
yeah, so I was like, well, I don't want to like cloud my judgment and everything. Like I'm trying to take it easy because I wasn't even really looking for a relationship right now. I was trying to be focused on the Lord. And now, like, we like each other, but hold on, and then you got mad at me.
Yeah, I did.
And then I stopped talking to you.
Yes, you did. I'm still mad about that on the low.
You're mad about it?
Yeah, you stopped
Why?
talking. Stop talking to me. I was reaching out, and you didn't want to call me back.
Well, I needed to not, because,
Yeah.
like, the fact that you were mad at me upset me.
Well, no. First of all, I was mad at what you were saying. It's not like I was just mad because, for no reason. It's like we've already been kissing and moving forward, and then you was like, oh, I don't want to do that no more.
Mm-hmm.
Which to me sounds like you just been playing with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was mad. It's not like I wasn't just mad because I wasn't respecting your boundaries. I thought you were playing.
Mm-hmm.
And then that made me mad. Like, what are we doing here?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, then I was just like, I probably overreacted in my mind. Because, I didn't have to necessarily do any of that. But I wasn't trying to be no
I don't
simp.
even remember what you said, or what you did. I just remembered you were mad about it, and, we were disagreeing. But go ahead.
Well, I ain't want to be a simp,
A what?
A simp.
What is that?
I assume a simpleton.
Oh, okay.
But a simp is somebody who can be played easily.
Oh, okay.
That's the main point. I wouldn't have been a simp in 2010. It would have been something else. A buster if we was on the West Coast.
Okay.
You don't know nothing about the slang. But
Well, I know about a buster.
Yeah, a buster.
That's just a funny word to say now. And then.
Yeah, you'd be a buster and just let her walk all over you and just play with your feelings. And then, for all I know, you got another boyfriend, and now that's why you don't want to kiss.
Right.
And I can take it and I necessarily think that, but I just thought it was like, why would you do this now? It's like we should have started there. Like, you don't move backwards. People don't move backwards in successful relationships. That was my opinion at the time.
No, I understood. Well, no, I understand. I did not understand. Not understood. I understand.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like, and I was like, dag. But even I actually felt like I probably still overreacted. Because I think I said something like, well, we shouldn't even talk or something like that.
Oh.
Maybe that's probably why. I think that's probably why you didn't pick up the phone. Because I was just like, well, it's like, what are we doing here? Like, we shouldn't even talk or something of that nature. But then I said, man, might have went too far. That's when I called you, and you dissed me.
Yeah, several times.
A slew
Yeah.
of times. And I said, all right, well, I had a bad night that night. Yep.
Yeah, no. And I mean, of course, when I have the backstory of why you reacted the way you did, then I understand your reaction. But at the time, like, you weren't really giving me it wasn't as, like, detailed of, like, oh, like, what are you trying to play me type of thing.
Right.
It was more of just like, why would you want to go backwards?
Right.
Like, we're already kissing. And I'm like, well, I'm telling you why.
Yeah.
And you're just not accepting what I'm saying.
Not at all.
But it's like, I didn't think it was that you didn't believe me. Because really that's, in essence, what you're saying right now. You
More or
didn't
less,
believe
right.
my reasoning.
I didn't.
But my
think it
reasoning was
good.
dead serious. But, in my mind, I'm just like, okay, I'm telling you why.
Yeah.
And you just don't like it.
No, that's
And
yeah.
it's like, but also, like, I was getting undertones of, like, maybe making me out to be a liar type of thing. But I wasn't really sure. But, like, it was more so just it started giving me, like, if you don't let me cross your boundaries, we can't be in a relationship type of line. I meant type of vibe.
That's very funny.
It was, because I'm just like, well, dang, like, how come we can't? And especially because I already, like, yes, it was going backwards as far as, like, meanwhile, we didn't even kiss that many times.
I don't know if that's true or not.
It is true.
But I feel like you said the hugging. I don't remember, like, I don't think it was just kissing. I think it was just, like, any sort of physical. I don't remember.
I don't remember saying hugging.
I don't remember.
I just didn't want to be making out. But we hadn't even made out. Like, it wasn't no making out going on. Like, we kissed goodbye maybe twice, and we kissed, like, quickly at the park. And I feel like that was it. Because, mind you, it was only, like, 4 weeks in between us starting to talk and us getting in a relationship.
Because you're young. It seemed like it was long.
It seemed like it was long. Like, it didn't happen that many times yet at all, which is why I was like, wait a minute, I don't really want this to keep happening. Wow. It might have been after we kissed at the park that I was like, okay, I don't want to keep kissing. Like, because I didn't want the peck to turn into making out. Like, that's really what it was. I was trying to stop that. Like, I didn't want to. But I had already been very clear with you that, like, I wasn't even sure I wanted to be in a relationship. So, like, to me, it didn't seem like it was coming out of left field or anything. Like, it was pretty consistent with what I had been saying to you.
Left field.
It was not left
Definitely
field.
Felt like left field to me. Yep. Definitely felt like left field. Because that's why I was so upset. It'd be different. Because if it wasn't, at least to me, you may not have felt that. I felt like it was still. Because, you know, feeling a certain way is like, but the actions, I'm like, you know, we're doing, you know, what couples do in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. We're dating.
We're dating. So it felt like left field to me. But I think to be taken from that in in disagreements or arguments, or really it's not an argument because we wasn't yelling, but a disagreement is like you can't overreact. Mm-hmm. I think an overreaction and a reaction is justified, but an overreaction is what really messes up the moment. Yeah. In that, you know, something that really is simple. It's actually pretty simple for somebody to say, "Hey, I feel like maybe we're moving too fast," especially because I don't know you that well. Mm-hmm. For you to say, you know, "Hey, maybe we're moving too fast," and I'm not necessarily comfortable with where we are, we should scale it back. A reasonable answer would be like, wow, I don't really like that, but I understand. Right. That's fine. As opposed to, well, what have we been doing this whole time then? I mean, like, you know, like, what are you, like, it was like, what are you doing? Like, I mean, we've been kissing. I like the lips now. Like, I like the lips now. I need to smooch them things. And now, you know, but, you know, we'll just go on there. Go kiss somebody else then. That's what it's really about. That's what it's really about. Go kiss him then. You know what I mean?
That's hilarious.
And now you over here like,
so we're done.
You're overdoing it, Ron.
Well, in my mind, I was just like, all right, well, this was a flop. Because, like, I really was just like, okay, so we're just done then. Because, like, you know, because I wasn't going to do that. So I'm just like, well, if you're going to have a problem with it, then all right. Like, we're done then.
Baloney.
Yeah.
It's all your fault, Chelsea. You could have just
It was not my fault.
It was meant to be. That was the Lord. We were supposed to be kissing, Chelsea. Supposed to be loving each other.
At some point.
And you was trying to back out, and the Lord was like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be with this man.
No, I just started noticing. I'm just like, wait, we're not even together, and we're already kissing. Like, I don't want to just go around kissing everybody. Like, it just...
But you ain't no hooker, no how.
No, I'm not. But if everybody that you go on dates with, you kiss... It's a lot of kissing different people. It's like, I'm not even with you.
If you on a bunch of dates, was you on a bunch of dates at the time?
No.
Okay. Well, then it's just me.
Well, I'm not talking specifically about me. I'm talking about in general.
That's fair.
In general.
In general.
Like, because we were not a couple.
Right.
And I wasn't even sure if you were for me. And I was seeking the Lord about that. Wow. It's like, I don't want to be kissing you if we're not even going to be together.
Wow. That's another point to be taken. Don't even waste time having arguments with people.
Okay.
If you ain't even together, don't even have an argument with somebody we ain't with. Trying to have y'all just buddies, and it's just like, well, let's have an argument about our status and where we stand. It's like, man,
yeah,
we got one more date in the life of this relationship, and I'm done after that. Yeah, not us.
Not us.
Yeah, that's because
fight if it's worth fighting for.
If it's worth fighting for.
Because it was just a disagreement. And that's something to really, like, pay attention to, too. Like, what is it that you're having right now? Yeah. You know, because really it was not I actually would call that an argument. We were arguing. It was not just disagreeing. Because like you said, like, there's, and I've said this before, like, I feel there's levels to it. If it's just, should we buy butter pecan or vanilla? Sure. And you're like, well, I want vanilla. I want butter pecan. Oh, well, you know, I mean, I really want vanilla, though, but I really want butter pecan. We're disagreeing. Certainly. But we can it doesn't have to turn into an argument. An argument is when that then goes to, you always feel like you get to pick everything in this relationship. I don't get to pick nothing. Now we're arguing. Yes. And the reason it goes from that to that, which goes back to what you were saying about our disagreement, at first it was a disagreement. I feel we should stop kissing. I feel we should continue to kiss. You know? what turned into an argument was getting in your feelings.
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting because I'm noticing with both of us, it was the thought behind. It was what we perceived as the intent behind what the person was saying.
Right. Right.
You know, because with you, the intention behind what you were saying in my mind was, okay, well, I either have rights to your body or I don't.
Or I don't.
You know, like I can touch you or I can't.
Right.
I'm here for the body.
I'm here for that physicality.
And that is because of my background.
Right.
It causes me to have that perception.
See.
Versus your background caused you to believe she must be cheating, she must have somebody else, you know, like, or she might, like, she's being wishy-washy, she's trying to play me, she's trying to string me along, something like that, you know, where there's like an insecurity about my sincerity.
Yeah.
Because of what happened to you before.
Unbelievable, man. It's like they just like, oh, you just another one. You don't want me no more. Okay. Fine.
Yeah, because that happened to you before. Somebody came out of left
multiple
field.
times.
Multiple times.
Multiple times, Chelsea.
Are you serious?
Yes, and by multiple I mean twice.
Who else did that happen with?
I ain't gonna say her name because we was young.
Don't say her name, but
you know, in 8th grade, it'd be funny if somebody hears this story. It was very funny at the time. It wasn't. Here's the thing.
Oh, I
remember? Right. There was a girl who I was with for a very short because it was 8th grade.
Right. That
she was more like advanced than me, and I'm not saying she was fast or anything. I ain't saying she was fast, but I just was more saved and wasn't saved, but I was certainly more churched. And, you know, like I just didn't even
You were
know.
more
It's
innocent.
like, oh yeah, I was innocent. Like here's this girl, like, what's she gonna be your girlfriend? I'm like, oh, okay, cool. What do we do? Like,
let's get ice cream.
If that. Or let's talk on the phone, or like I don't know what to do. I'm just an 8th grader. I remember when, it was very funny. Oh man, I remember one time I kissed her like hard. And by hard, I mean like with my mouth, not like, you know, I didn't have a surprise erection and tried to kiss her. Like, no.
Okay, first of all, no one would have ever thought that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, every now and then, you know.
I mean, you were an 8th grader.
I was an 8th grader, spontaneous.
That's
funny. But no, and I surprised her. She was like, oh, I don't know where that came from. And like just looking back on that is just so funny and so embarrassing. Oh man. But literally the other kids and mainly African Americans was like, oh, we want you to go with this other guy. And here I am all innocent and just being like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know what in the world. And she said something like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how she broke up with me. And like, I literally wasn't even hurt.
Oh.
Like nothing. Like wasn't. I was just like, okay.
Definitely a left field though.
Definitely a left field.
Oh, okay. So, all right.
Yeah. But then I think I found out later that they were saying like, oh, they wanted her to, it's so dumb. Oh man. They wanted her to go with another dude. Because that matters.
That happened to me in 8th grade too.
Yeah, it's foolishness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that only if anybody is hearing this and you are not African American, please share if that actually happens in other cultures because I've only known
can
that.
answer for you.
Oh, does it?
Because in 7th grade there was a boy, and I'm gonna say his name.
Oh Lord.
Just because it doesn't matter. This boy named Ethan. I won't say his last name.
Okay.
This boy named Ethan. So I don't even know how that happened. Like there was a day where like the social studies classes wound up together.
Yeah.
Because they were two different 7th grade social studies classes. We were together one time, and so the boy Ethan was in the other class with my best friend at the time, Katrina. And so she knew him, but I didn't. But he sat next to her, and then of course when our classes together, she's like, "Sit next to me."
Yes.
So he was in his normal spot. The three of us were like, you know, goofing off and everything. And, you know, he was cool. I didn't think anything of it because just like you, very churched, very innocent, not very exposed to like dating and whatnot. So, but I mean, obviously I thought certain boys would be cute, but he was not one of those people that caught my attention. And honestly, that didn't even happen to me often where I would, at that age, where I would be like, ooh, like it would be sometimes. Yeah. Not a lot. I wasn't boy crazy. So I go home, Katrina calls me and she's like, Ethan said he wants you to be his girlfriend. And I'm like, oh. And she's like, should I tell him? So first of all, there's a messenger. Yes. Like he's like, can you ask her if she wants to be my girlfriend and then tell me tomorrow? Already like horrible. You tell me. Yes. Not have her or can ask her, can I have her number? nothing regular. So she's our go-between, and she's like, well, you got to tell me what to say, because we used to get to school early, and like we all would be in like the all-purpose room before it was time for everybody to go to class. So she's like, I can go tell him like in the morning or whatever. And I'm like, I mean, I guess you can tell him, okay. I literally had to think it over, and she's like, but he's cute, you have to. And I'm like, all right, fine. So I said, sure. So the next morning, me and Katrina, we used to ride bikes to school together. We go in, and I stay like near the door. Yeah. She goes over to him over in the back, tells him, comes back, and then says, he said he's interested in Molly Reeder now.
One day later.
Who was adorable. Molly Reeder was a very pretty girl. But yeah, so like everybody's interested in Molly Reeder. I don't know if she's interested back even.
Shout out about her whole name. Yes.
Well, because I'm calling her pretty. Yes, so Molly Reeder, you are a very beautiful young lady. Well, hopefully she grew up good. But anyway, everybody's interested in Molly Reeder. I'm like, is she even trying to be with you? But all right.
No, she's not.
So, but I guess he didn't want to ruin his chances by having a girlfriend.
Nah, can't ruin my chances. Gotta give him a shot.
All right. So you're in, and I'm just like, oh, okay.
One day later.
And it bothered me a smidge. Only because I'm like, oh, well, dang, I guess I'm not as good as Molly Reeder. But all right. But it wasn't because I wanted to be with him so bad. Like, that was whatever. And I got over it very quickly.
It's very
Then
funny.
in 8th grade, just because it's story time, I go to a new school. And
okay. Well, I was trying to, by cultures, I meant not black people.
Oh, Ethan was white.
Right. Okay.
And so was Molly. Yes. First of all, I was one of like 2 black kids. Well,
of course you were.
I was one of 3 black kids in the middle school.
See, yes.
And the other 2 were half black. Everyone else was white.
But you're in the mix, see. You brung that in. It wasn't them, Chelsea. We got to find out if this is just...
It was very much him. That's what he decided to do. I ain't
if that's just like, what do they do with each other's, right? Because I don't know, culture-wise. Like, I don't know. Because I feel like...
how does me being black... Because it wasn't... That was what he did. He did that.
I'm just saying. I want to know what the cultures do.
You're so funny.
Outside
I went to white school.
Of us. All right.
I'm saying this happened to me at white school with white people.
Well, I can't express to you why that is, but I'll tell you off camera. But, I can't say that.
Oh.
Yes.
You can.
No, I can't.
You're saying because he was picking a white girl over a black girl, so now it doesn't matter.
Well, I don't know, like, how they treat each other. That's the main point I was trying to convey.
I see. Okay.
That's what I was trying to get to.
Where I may have been more of a castaway.
Correct.
Because I was black.
Yes.
More easy to
That's what I was trying to say without saying it. So
why can't we be real?
We can be, but that's just not where I was trying to go. Mercy. But yes.
And I mean, that may or may not have been the case, but I doubt it.
So in 8th grade, yeah.
Then in 8th grade at black school. So first of all, I had been going to white schools from 5th to 7th, 3 years. Before that, I went to mixed race school, but predominantly white still. So when I got to Camden in 8th grade, it was a church school, but it was a bunch of kids from Camden. So, I get in there and they're all like, you talk weird and you dress weird and you do everything weird and why are you so white? And then,
certainly.
But there was a young man that I knew because my mom had been going to that church for years, and it's like the first week of school. So literally like the 3rd day of school or so, he comes up to me and he's just like, oh, hey, da-da-da-da. Now, it was a very small church school, so we were walking to the park for gym because there was nowhere at the school to have gym. So we were walking to a park for gym. And while we're walking, he comes up to me in the line and is like, hey, blah, blah, blah. And so then he asked me for my number or whatnot, and I was like, I guess. I gave it to him. Yeah. We talk on the phone that night. He's like, yeah, so I want you to be my girl. And I'm like, okay. I come to school the next morning, and we walked to gym again the next day, or it might have been 2 days later. Anyway, we're walking the gym again. Some of the girls come talk to me, and they send the other girl that he dated last year up to go talk to him. It was like a distract. They're like, oh, we're going to go talk to Chelsea so that she doesn't notice that you are going to talk to him type of thing.
Raggedy kids.
As if I cared. I'm 13.
13.
I didn't even notice. I'm like, so what? He's talking to a girl. What? They could be talking about homework. I don't care. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Like, why is he automatically cheating? Like, why am I suspecting anything? She could have just went and talked to him. Yeah. Anyway, they're trying to like, oh, we'll talk to her. You go talk to him. And then while they were talking to me though, they did tell me like, did you know that she dated him last year? And I was like, no. And they're like, oh well, okay. But like they didn't like explain anything but they were clearly trying to get them back together.
Yeah.
Because I guess it was a thing where over the summer they just, back in 04.
Just didn't see each other.
They just didn't see each other.
Right.
But they didn't officially break up. So I guess she was hurt when she found out we were together and they were trying to get her to talk to him.
Yes.
So so then he calls me on the phone and is like, so I'm back with her now. And I was like, okay.
All right.
And when I tell you it was no sweat off my brow.
Nothing.
Because I really didn't care. And I really just felt like I wanted to be a nice person and say, sure, I'll be your girlfriend, because that might be mean to say no.
Ah, man.
So if you're watching this, young man, God bless you. But I didn't care. So, yeah. Anyway, this must be like a middle school thing.
Must be. Just immature and trying to be grown, but not understanding any of the nuance. Just out here, just like, oh, that's our man. Not
it's like role play. It's almost like practicing for life.
Oh man, some people never get out of that phase. They still in it.
My God,
30,
today
talking about I'm gonna see who I'm talking to. Ooh, it's just like, yo, you 30.
My God,
talking
today.
to. You better find a husband.
It's my God, today.
Find you a wife. You 30. It's over. You're middle aged. Oh man.
But going back to what we were talking about.
Disagreements.
And,
yeah.
But it's about what happened to you before.
Right.
That shapes your paradigm.
Certainly.
And then gives you a certain perspective on what is happening now, where you are now putting things on people you just met.
Yes.
That have nothing to do with that person.
At all.
They sometimes do.
Sometimes.
A red flag is a red flag.
Certainly.
Let's not ignore red flags.
Saying the same words they said. The same words they said.
Right. Like sometimes it's like, but the thing is, don't take one not blatant, isolated thing and turn, like red flags come in groups. It's not just this one, oh, well, he has a problem with this one thing, or he said this one thing and everything else doesn't line up with the person I'm now making him out to be or her out to be.
Certainly.
Like, let's keep things in perspective.
Sure.
But when you get in your feelings and allow your feelings to cloud your judgment, it can make you overreactive. It can make you assume things that are not true. And you know what they say about people that make assumptions?
Yes.
They are in donkey.
And arson.
And donkey.
And a donkus, yes.
Because Ann would have went before the other word.
That's funny. Yes. that's funny. But yeah, it's true. You make these assumptions. It's hard to really separate, especially if you're not mature enough. Like I'm 19 and I'm actually a fairly mature 19-year-old.
Yeah.
But not
I think you were 20 at that point.
Well, yeah,
but you had just turned 20.
Yeah, depending on when, right? Somewhere probably was 20.
No, you had to be.
I had to be, right? Yeah, you're right. But not even understanding, like that's the thing about becoming wiser and older and mature is like you can't you don't know. This is something that ET would say. Maybe it's part of it because it's like you don't know what you don't know. But it's really bad when you don't know that you don't know that you don't know. Right. Yes, like you're you're really far removed from even having a glimpse. Right. Most people are just young and like you don't know what you don't know, which is fine. But not even having like the ability to fathom like, hey, you may be putting something on her that has nothing to do with her based off of your, last previous experiences with people who were children. Yeah, true. This is the one of the hardest parts to accept about past hurts and things. It's like these people were children. Most of the children that do things that are heinous, I ain't gonna say heinous. Heinous is like a special victims unit. Like these crimes are especially heinous. Like they ain't doing nothing heinous. They're just either being super mean or they want to fight everybody or they seem promiscuous or they're bullies. It's like that stuff typically is coming from home. It's like this is learned. They're imitating something. They're imitating something or just this is learned like behavior. It's like imitation. Like something happened to them to make them beat. Like children are literally the most pure. Getting yourself together there? Yeah. I thought you was good. My nose was a little bit. Ron isn't claiming a cold, but I'm getting over a cold. So excuse us. Allergy fit. Just allergy it's a combo for me, but go ahead. But people, it's like children are pure. It's like if a child experiences pureness, they'll be pure. It's true. It's like, that doesn't mean they're like, sinless, but generally they'll just be like Corey is literally, I've like, it is such a struggle with me and her because I feel like her life is too insulated to where like she has nothing. She has no survival skills. She has no self-defense, anything. Like she has like no way to understand how bad the world is unless we show her.
Go ahead.
Now, I'm not saying that to say like we need to make her life bad.
Right.
But I just like you understand that like children who are like that, like they're born to be picked on. Because like everybody does not have that.
I'm sorry, I just thought about her dancing at the church.
Dancing free and unashamed in
Badly,
public,
but
didn't even realize
badly,
this is
just in her
socially
little
unacceptable.
way. Not at all. Oblivious.
Yep. And I was just like, well, hey, this is the best time to do it because once you turn a teenager or you have friends or peers, then you'll be the one that's corny and just.
But I feel like what you just said was very crucial to your point because I think that a lot of us went overexposed and unprotected as children. And that we don't want our kids to go through things we've seen or things that we have personally been through and whatnot. So we think that we need to then do the same thing to them, overexpose them and underprotect them. When in reality, I think that teaching your kids, and not to mention, like she watches little shows with elementary students and stuff where kids are bullying kids or where, or even in children's church and stuff, like Sunday school lessons. Like she knows that people bully people. She knows that people are mean. She knows that whatever, but she's also being taught not to be that person. And I think what can happen is, like you said, what's being emulated, like what they are going to portray is what they actually experience.
Well, yeah.
So, like, I'm sorry. What did you want to say?
Oh, I was trying to finish. I didn't finish my point.
I literally, you be pausing.
I was
I literally was waiting for you to be done, and then I
don't
started
even
when I thought you were
pausing.
done.
Go
ahead.
I was trying to make the point that it's like they don't have that experience because I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is that we don't, and I don't even feel like I may disagree. I don't actually want them to experience it, but I know that I can't necessarily prevent it from happening.
Yeah, not at all.
And that. You feel like you should be trying, like things you experience is like you don't want them to experience it, so you do everything you can not to have them go through it. But they're still going to go through something.
They are. And
like, unless you give them something, it's like, what do you do with them? Because like, I don't know. Because like the only, like, how do you deal with, like, sometimes kids get bullied or whatever. Like, that's the only thing I can think of as a kid. But because ain't no foolishness going on. Like, they're not experiencing like a drunken or drug addicted parent or an abusive anything. Well,
not our kids, but
I'm talking about our kids.
Oh, okay.
Like, not anybody's kids. They be experiencing anything. I don't know. Yeah. But here, they're not going to experience that. They're not going to be around a bunch of cussing and fussing and fighting every weekend or anything crazy.
Praise the Lord.
So now it's like, okay, in the world, these things exist, and they don't know, like they've never experienced them. I've experienced them by being in that environment to know, oh, this is horrible. And I didn't come out unscathed. Like, that's the issue. It's like, oh, like, how do you prepare them without them being scathed?
Yeah. That's what I was getting at, because I really, truly believe that it happens naturally. Like, no matter what because first of all, you come from a loving 2-parent home. Right. Christian. Loving Christian 2-parent home. But you had experiences outside of your home that, if I'm right, that stuff was not occurring in your home. No one was cussing and fussing. Correct. They argued, but in a very Christian, it's a Christian argument. They ain't cussing each other out or hitting nobody or, whatever. They still together. They ain't threatening divorce. Like you had a very stable, loving environment. And nobody's no parents are perfect. No person is perfect. But like, you never worried about, like, that you can go home. I feel like what's important is not so much making sure that they are like street smart and that they're like not naive, because because the thing is, as they get older, the reins loosen, period. You know, like they are going to experience these things. If they experience them later, and they're going to find out about them. The way we talk around them changes when they get older. The things we share with them changes as they get older. The way other people talk to them, the friends that they have.
Yeah.
You know, like she has friends that are not homeschooled, you know, that are experiencing, oh, my friend was cussing today, or, you know, like, or my parents are doing XYZ, or my cousins I was hanging with her, we're on TikTok, we're doing this. She's around other kids, you know, at the co-op, at the church, at, you know, just out in society, at the playground, whatever. Like, and not all the kids at the co-op are Christian.
Sure.
And Christian homes are not identical.
Sure.
You know, some people are Christian in name only, you know, and they still are doing whatever at home, or letting their kids watch certain things, you know, on TV and whatnot, or listen to certain music. And, you know, family gatherings, you're going to be around cousins. You know, both of them will naturally be exposed to the world at some point, and they will not always be under our roof, you know, and we're going to give her more freedom to be out and about, like with friends and everything. Like as she gets older, it's not going to be like it never happens. But I feel that the most important thing is that we have open lines of communication with them, that when they see these things or experience these things, they feel free enough to talk to us about it, you know, for us to help them with their perspective, that they know that we are a safe space and that home is not going to be that for them.
Right.
Because the issue comes in when you experience all these things out in the world, and then you come home and you're experiencing all these things at home and you have no solace and like no one to rely on, no one that feels safe. Sure. You know, it's like, I really think it's important that they be loved, especially when it comes to, because in my situation, I had a lot of verbal support and praise and all of that. But physically, I did not have consistency. I did not have, you know, like my life was very unpredictable. You know, like I couldn't count on, you know, home is this place this year and that place next year. I live with these parents this year and these parents next year. Y'all are married, now you're not. All these things, you know, like several step parents and all these things, you know, step siblings, now we ain't. You know, it was very all over the place. So like home, it's like, yeah, y'all are telling me I'm beautiful and I'm talented, da 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 da, but it's still tumultuous. It's not like a place of peace or like refuge. And even just where the methods of discipline don't match up with the verbal, I love you. You know, like it wasn't cohesive. So people told me all day, you're beautiful, you're talented, you're great, you're brilliant, you're so smart, all that stuff, but it didn't stick because I wasn't treated in a way that matched what was being said. You know, because I'm also getting spanked all the time and yelled at all the time. And it's like at the same time, everything is not good enough. So it's like, well, what is it? Am I smart and capable and talented and secure? Yeah. Or am I never measuring up? You know, like, what is it? But then, all right, so when the two don't match up, you know, it doesn't sink in. It doesn't work. Yeah. You know, it's kind of like you can't make a salty dish and then add a bunch of sugar and it come out right. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? It gotta be consistent and it has to be one flavor profile.
Well, yeah. I understand.
But I'm saying all that to say that then when you go out in the world and you're facing natural life things in the world, you know, now like the self-esteem that one would think I had because of everything that people said with their words, you know, I didn't have. You know, like you have to have a holistic approach to being loved. You know, I feel like children that are like truly like loved and protected, because there's things that come with love. Love protects you and love shelters you and love accepts you in spite of everything and all that type of stuff. Uh-huh. So it's like, you know, if you're telling me you love me and you're telling me I'm enough and capable and all of that, but then it's like you don't treat me in a way that matches up with that. Right. You know, then when I go out in the world and I get bullied, I'm going to believe that narrative, you know, versus people I think that are more firmly rooted in like, it's like not only, because it's like, it's almost like seeing, and I'm weird about the world talking about what you're worthy of. Okay. You know, like I'm worthy of this, worthy of that. Sure. But like, it's almost like what you setting a standard for what you will accept from people. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You look very confused.
I feel like we're far apart. I feel like you took like a different road, like a way different road, and I'm just trying to make sure I'm trying to put my thoughts together. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I feel like you're talking about a different aspect of it than I was.
Well, you were saying if we don't give it to them, how do they know?
I'm sorry, but I think you're like go ahead, but just finish because I think we're on two different sides of the coin.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it's just very off-putting to be
I'm
talking
sorry.
and someone look at you like.
I'm trying to, yeah.
I'm like, maybe I should.
I'm trying to put it together in my mind, like, well, how did this really relate?
All right. Well, yeah, let me try to get it back around. So what I'm saying is, I don't think we have to give it to them. I think we need to give them the opposite. I'm saying I don't think it's actually good to give it to them or to thrust them into it. It's going to happen. Life happens to everyone, and I think us assuming when it needs to happen to them,
yes,
it's like trying to make them prepared and toughen them up. And I feel like that's, especially in the Black culture, a big thing. You like play like fight, and all that. Yeah, you got to know how to defend yourself. You got to know how to be tough. Like, oh, somebody talks smack, do you talk smack back?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a very like cultural thing for us, where it's like, don't take no stuff from people.
Right.
But how do you get that way if you never have to exercise it?
Correct.
So we feel that we then have to be tough
on
them.
Okay.
And we then have to kind of tear them down a little bit. And we then have to put them in places where they're unsafe or where they're being mistreated. But if what I'm saying is that I feel that you have a healthier, more whole person that can more go less scathed, which is what you were talking about. I feel like you can go less scathed when that stuff happens to you in the world, but you have a foundation of love and support and security at home.
Okay.
I feel like it's actually okay to a degree within reason to shelter your children. And once again, we're talking age appropriate. Like once they get to a certain age, you're not even going to be sheltering them the same way.
Sure.
But I don't feel that when they're like Corey's 7, and I'm not saying you were saying we need to throw her out in the street and make her fight the wolves, but I'm just making a point that I think that people from a parenting perspective think that it's their responsibility to make them tough so that when other people come at them, they're already tough.
But I think it is their responsibility, right?
I don't think we have to make them tough.
Well, I feel like that may be a mistake because, here's the thing: if life has to make you tough, then you're behind. Like it'd be better, and I don't mean like hard, right? Like even just resilient, like where Sweet Bob doesn't want to get anything wrong. Like that's a problem right now that has to be addressed where she's scared to take chances.
Yes.
Of any kind. But if we don't teach it to her, life will have to teach it to her. And then she'll be too late. Like it might be too late. Like, now you're going to find out, as a 17-year-old when we could have taught you this when you were 8. And that's just one aspect.
Is a 17-year-old too late?
Well, depending on what you want to do with your life. Because now, if you're afraid of getting something wrong or rejection, the chances you may have to take, you won't take them. Sure. And you can miss your opportunity. Because sometimes, audition dates are a certain time. They were yesterday. And now you didn't want to fill out the FAFSA because you were scared you might mess it up. And you didn't want to apply for colleges because you were scared you might not get in. And now you're 17.
Chelsea life, yes.
Yes, talking about, well, I guess I got to go somewhere, but I don't know. And it's too late. It's like, no, the deadline, college deadlines, they ain't playing with y'all.
No, they're not.
The deadline is over. But it's all based off of you didn't understand that it's okay to fail, and now you won't try anything.
Yeah.
And that's one aspect. And the toughness, and I'm talking about, like, that's, that aspect of mentally and physically, I mean, for boys, I guess, like, just because men, they have to actually be men. It's like, I don't want you to have to learn how to, navigate. I don't know. I don't want you to learn how to navigate a really hard situation when you're in it. It's like, it's my responsibility to make you tough. It's like, and I don't want, and here's the thing, and I want to draw the line between being tough and being hard, because hard is what people become when they ain't really got no choice. Like, I'm hardened because I've had to fight my parent who gets drunk every weekend for, the first 12 years of my life. Mm-hmm. So now I'm really hard, and you don't want to fight me.
Mm-hmm. Well, emotionally unavailable is more
that's right, sure.
Yeah.
Right? Emotionally unavailable, ready for fisticuffs, whatever it is, because you're hardened
challenging everyone
based off of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's different to be tough, to where, maybe somebody gave you some training, maybe somebody taught you to be able to be in control of your emotions, things that will make you tough, but without making you hard, things that are actually on purpose and not happenstance. Like, I'm going to purposefully put this in you so that you'll be able to be resilient. Mm-hmm. I need you to be able to be okay if I die suddenly, like if me and your mom, it is tough. It's hard,
go ahead.
But I feel like it is our responsibility. Like, we can't, it's one thing to be loved. I feel like that is love. It's love to say, hey, I need you to be prepared.
I have to interject just so I don't forget. Uh-huh. If you die when your child is 3.
Yeah. Well, that's fair.
I'm just making a point.
Yeah.
It has to be age appropriate.
Okay,
and I feel like this goes back to what I was saying in the beginning of the podcast.
Okay.
That, like, at a certain age, they're only going to be so prepared.
Right.
You can only do so much.
Well, that's true. I completely agree.
Even at 10, they need a guardian, like legally.
Yeah, they do.
They're not going to be okay when you die.
But they do need to be okay to, at 10, I need you to understand, hey, daddy's laying on the floor. Call the police.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that's where I agree with you.
Hey,
or even just
that's a pack of bees. Let me not go running into it.
Absolutely.
Those look like wild dogs over there. Hey guys, let's go the other way.
Yeah.
Stuff that sometimes you don't realize. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like, they need that. And that's like the easy stuff. I.e., hey, who's this dude over here that keeps following me around? He probably shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
Like, stuff like that with predators and just people and stuff. You know what I mean? But I do agree. We can, as men, we can overdo it with, like, our son. It's like, all right, son, like, you're 4 years old. It's time to start it's time to start looking for the job applications or something. Like, you got to do something. You're just eating and pooping. You're eating and pooping, laughing, watching Deborah Light. It's like, you're not doing anything. What are you doing with your life? Like, come on, man. You're almost out the house at this point. Like, let's do something.
I have to explain. So he watches Songs for Littles with Miss Rachel, and Miss Rachel looks like Deborah from Raymond.
Yes.
Everybody loves Raymond.
Yes. Shout out to
Anyway,
Deborah.
No, I hear you. So, and I feel like that is a different side of the coin, because the example you initially gave was bullying.
Right.
And I was responding to, like, emotional and physical abuse.
Okay. Right. I want to.
What you're talking about is actual life skills.
Like, and
mental and emotional strength.
Yes.
That's different.
And even physically being able to actually defend yourself.
Sure.
Man,
yeah.
Like, yes.
And that's
like
the thing about that, though, is, like, that can come with, like, explanations and conversation. And no matter how much we talk to our kids, we know from experience certain things they will not implement until they are faced with the situation.
True.
And they still might fail at it the first time it comes.
Right.
Because there's a lot of stuff we know. This reminds me of when I was in labor with Corey, we took a birth class.
Yikes, but nothing.
Took a birth class.
Squad.
And practiced.
But
when it came down to it, when it hit the fan.
Yes. Just hand me the epidural and please.
Well, first of all, I made it several hours before I got to that point.
Yes.
But I have to give myself that credit. It's Mother's Day tomorrow.
Put your hand
I
down.
made it 12 hours before I got an epidural.
Good job, baby.
And I mean, if you just decided to get one off the bat, I get it.
You're smart.
But anyway.
Amen.
But yeah, and the doggone thing didn't work well. But anyway,
don't worry about it.
So, but yeah, it's like we did positions, like you came up and they did the practice with what the partner can do. I literally was just sitting there screaming, and you were sitting there being in the room while I was screaming.
Doing nothing.
We did nothing.
I
we were taught.
I did nothing.
And that is where life does teach.
Yes.
Is you were saying earlier, some stuff only comes by experience.
That's true.
We can talk to them all day, but what I'm saying is we don't have to be their experience.
We don't, but
we personally do not have to be the ones that are bullying and tearing down and play fighting and all that type of stuff. Now, when it comes to giving them challenges, I totally agree that we must give them challenges. For instance, she hates getting stuff wrong. She was like covering her ears and stuff. Certain things are also innate. It's not always a result of what we did not do for you. Some of that stuff is just who you are and something we have to teach you not to be anymore. And that's just everyone in the flesh. Like, we are a certain way and we're all individuals. So those set of issues that we have are personal.
Sure.
They're unique to us. Some of them are shared with others, but our set of issues is unique to us. But some of it is just who we are personality wise, that it has to be taught to not be that way anymore.
Yeah.
She naturally has that issue. I don't think it's because she never has a chance to fail, because she's failed at several things. I think it's just that is a issue that she has personally as Corey. But she has opportunities to fail. I don't give her all the answers. She asks me questions. I'm like, stop asking me. What is the answer? She's been crying lately. We've been struggling because I'm like, she'll say, oh, I'm not sure about that. And I'm like, well, what do you think the answer is? Oh, well, I'm not sure. And I'm like, tell me what you think. Just take a guess. Like, what would your guess be? And then she'll tell me her guess. And I'm like, okay, put it in and see what it says. And she's like, but I don't want to get that. So I'm like, but if you get it wrong, they'll be able to show you the thing again so that you can learn it better.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to show you why it's wrong. So click it, get it wrong so that they can teach it to you.
Yeah.
And she hates it and she tears up and she gets mad. But that is not me being abusive. That is me allowing her to face a challenge and having to overcome it.
Yes.
So like, and life skills and everything don't run into a pack of bees. That's like, yeah, we don't want to. Those are things you teach your kids. Like, everybody teaches their kids stuff like that.
Certain times, right?
Yeah, you teach them.
But there's certain things we neglect, right? Or we can neglect.
We could, yeah.
But maybe because we don't know, or because we just aren't being persistent or
right. We have to be intentional. We have to be intentional.
Right.
We do.
Because you and me both have experienced things as children that you cannot allow your children to experience. So you have to put those things in place. But it's like it's not like easy. It's
No.
like, well, how do you keep your children from predators, from groups of people, from people who just don't have good intentions for them, whatever. How do you keep them from that? It's just something we have to be intentional about.
Very.
Yeah.
And just to give some just of our experience, I was watching a show called The Parent Test recently, like a couple months ago. And they talked about the rates of kids being approached by predators and sometimes kidnapped and whatnot. And they're very high. And a lot of the parents were in there breaking down because the way the parent test goes is they give a set of tests to the children to see how the parenting methods are influencing the child and how ready the child is for the world. That's literally what the show is about. And I really want you to watch it, even though you keep saying no. But there's couples in there and they all claim to have a certain parenting style. So like a different parenting style from the others in the room. So it's a set of parenting styles, several actually. Maybe like they started off with like 8 or something like that. And so you're seeing the fruit of your parenting when they put your child to the test. So they had a test of someone like trying to deliver a package or that one set of them was someone knocking and ringing the doorbell. Is the child going to answer the door? Because the parents were supposed to tell the child, all right, like I need to run out for a second. I'll be back in a few minutes, but they don't give them no instructions.
Right.
They just say, I'll be back in a few minutes. They leave, but they're actually probably in the backyard or something. And then someone knocks on the door. Several of the children open the door.
Certainly.
Several.
Immediately.
And then the person's like, hey, is your mom or dad home? And they're like, no. And they're like, oh, well, I'm supposed to come check. That's what it was. They're like, yeah, you have a gas leak in your house and it's really dangerous. I need to come fix it or whatever. Your parents knew I was coming. Right. Is it okay if I blah, blah, blah? Another set of them, it was, can I pick you up from somewhere?
Right.
So like you're at soccer practice or something. Your parents are supposed to be coming. Someone else shows up and it was a family friend.
Right.
That was real tricky because, kidnappings and all of that, predators and all of that are people typically that you know.
Right.
So they would send them to the child. Several of the children went with the person like, oh, your mom told me to pick you up, whatever. And then the other set of them, it was them playing at the playground and somebody coming up with a dog and saying like, oh, well, she just had puppies. They're right around the corner. Several of them went to go see the puppies,
yep.
And so a lot of them were in there crying, like, well, what do we do about this?
Right.
You know, like, how do we? And the child psychologist that was on set, he was saying, like, repetition and, like, seriousness is key. And the one couple, they call themselves natural parents.
Yeah.
And so they're very much about, oh, when the child is ready. And, you know, just like we let them, like, learn, like, we don't bring up anything.
Right.
Like, they'll bring it to us and then we'll address it type of thing. And, you know, they were like, we've never talked to our kids about strangers because we feel like they're too young. Their kids were 6 and 4.
Oh.
And they're like, we feel like they're too young to know that that type of danger is in the world. Our child is 7.
Oh. Yeah.
And I've been talking to her about this since she was probably about 3.
Yeah.
There's been times where she's in the car and I already strapped her in and everything, but I forgot something in the house or something, and I've had to run back in the house. We literally have had full-blown role plays where I'm like, if somebody knocks on the door and asks you to open the door, what do? You know, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, and we've gone over it so many times that I'm praying that at this point, like, she knows not to. There's been times I'm in the shower and the maintenance person, like, randomly knocks on the door for, like, some sort of check here or something like that. She does not open the door. She does not say 1 minute or anything like that. She comes and gets me and says somebody's knocking on the door.
Yeah.
You know, so I really think it's in being intentional, but it's a lot of repetitive conversations.
Yeah.
What the dude was saying is, like, repetition is what's really most important with stuff like that.
Yeah. But even her, she doesn't fully understand still, because, you know, a lot of times it's like, if you don't know, if we're not, she doesn't understand that if you're not expecting someone, you shouldn't jump up and run to the door. She doesn't understand that still.
I mean,
that, like, hey, somebody knocks on the door. Hey, let's go see who it is. It's like, first of all, they don't even know if we're in here or not. Be quiet.
well,
That's the first thing. But I'm just saying that, yes.
that's a little extreme, though. As long as she doesn't actually open the door.
But it's not. Well, here's the thing. If somebody is trying to come in the door, it's like, you going to need the element of surprise. And you just don't need to be announcing presence. It's like, now we done went from, oh, it's a kid in here. You know, this is the one we've been looking for. Thank God. Or anything. Like, you just, like, when somebody's like, there's like old preachers that literally wouldn't let, I said preachers. That's the only one person I can remember. Where it's like, you know, I don't really like you answering the door like that, because you don't know. But it's just certain aspects she still doesn't know. And she's not, because she's 7.
I was about to say, that's when I think age appropriateness comes into play. Cause
I think it matters, age appropriateness, yes.
Yeah.
It's just being intentional about it.
Yeah, you got to be intentional. And you have to be repetitive. You cannot tell a child something 1 or 2 times and expect them to remember or understand. Nope. And be detailed, man. Yeah. Because, like, me and her, I made her watch that episode of The Parent Test. Yeah. I made her watch it, and I said, what do you think will happen to that little boy if this was real? And, like, you know, he went with the dude that had the puppies or whatever. Him and his brother went with the dude that had the puppies. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what do you think is going to happen? And we talked it out. I was like, sometimes they will take you, and you will never see us again. Yeah. And they will be very mean to you, and they could hurt you, and all of that type of stuff. Like, I told her that. Like, she has an awareness of the fact that not everybody out here is a nice person. Yeah. Like, when we're at the store, I'm like, you put your hand on. I don't even tell her anymore, because we've gone over it so many times. Your hand is on the shopping cart, and you are walking with mommy.
Yeah, that's why you're a mother, Joe.
Okay.
I'm trying to explain to you.
No, like, you ain't frolicking it. But it took time.
Sure.
You know, because initially their impulse is to just, I'm jumping around. What's that over there? Now I'm over here. But now, you know, I would say since she was probably about 4 or 5, you know, she knows my hand is on the shopping cart and I'm walking with mommy. Like, I'm not distancing myself. And I've had to remind her several times, you're too far. You're too far. Where are you? Come here. You know, but yeah, it's intentionality. But no one's perfect, and really it's the Lord.
Yeah, but that's the tricky thing about the Lord, is that he doesn't stop bad things from happening to people all the time. Sometimes he might, and sometimes he don't. Mm-hmm. He uses it for your good, but it's like it takes really a mature person to even accept that. Mm-hmm. So that's rough. This has nothing to do with disagreeing, I guess, but we kind of just went off into that, so I guess it needed to be said.
I guess so.
But either way, we thank you.
Well, I mean...
Well, I need to go at this point. So...
All right.
We thank you.
Well, can I just make one more statement before you say that, just to bring it full circle?
Well, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so other than our tangent, when it comes to disagreeing, the main point we were trying to make is that you can't let your emotions take over your response, and that you don't want to bring your past trauma on and place it on your spouse.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
important to just be level-headed.
Yeah, and let them be who they are. But don't
Assume the best of them.
Yeah, it's true. That's what love is supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
Assume the best in people.
Yeah.
Just thank you for listening. We appreciate the support that we get, and we love you. We love each other. I love you.
Love you too.
And we will see you next week.